What is the future of webinar marketing? Is it AI-driven bot presenters, polls that automatically guess your answer, or maybe hosts that play guitar and dance with people in banana costumes? Wait, I did that last year. Well, the future is now, and it's time to find out what it has in store. This is the On24 Webinar Best Practices series. Hello, friends, fellow webinards. Welcome to the On24 Webinar Best Practices series. My name is Mark Bornstein. I am the VP of Content Marketing and Chief Webinerd here at On24. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope you had a great holiday, that you're well fed, you're rested up, and you're ready to go, because 2020 is here and it's time to take our webinars into the future. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my webinar marketing predictions for 2020. But before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. The On24 webinar console that you're looking at right now can be completely customized, how we say this. So you can resize or move any of the windows you have open. You can sort of create the console as you like it. Maybe open up the video window a little bigger if you want. We also have a bunch of buttons, we call them widgets, on the bottom of your screen. I'm going to quickly review them from left to right. First, there's a media player button to control the volume. Then a slide button to open and close the slide window. You're going to want to leave that open. Next, you'll see a speaker bio if you want to connect with me on all the usual social forums. And then after that, you'll see a Q&A button. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Maybe I'll take some questions in the middle, so please get your questions coming in. We're also going to use that Q&A button for something else. I'll tell you about that in a moment. After that, there is a Twitter button. If you'd like to tweet about today's presentation, the hashtag is On24. That's pound On24. Next, you'll see a resources button. I always get asked, Mark, where can I get a copy of the slides? They're in the resources widget. We've also got some other complimentary content for you, including a link to a save the date page for Webinar World 2020. Now, I'm very excited to sort of pre-announce that the formal announcement for Webinar World is coming out tomorrow morning. So you're all going to get an email, I'm sure, tomorrow morning announcing Webinar World 2020 with the dates and all the deets. I'm so excited. We'll be talking a lot about that over the course of the next few months. Okay, after that, you'll see a calendar button where you can register for next month's episode of this series, which is how to turn your webinar presenters into superstars. That's right, I'm going to give you my magic formula for getting your presenters to be more dynamic and engaging. Actually, there really isn't a magic formula, but there are a lot of tips and best practices that will definitely make a difference. So let's just pause. Should we stop right there? And everybody just go ahead and click. You're not going to have to fill out a form. Just click, one click, single thing. Oh, we're going to talk about that. That's coming. Okay, after that, you'll see a console icon. Click on that. If you like what you're looking at right now and you're not already an On24 customer, you want to take a demo of the On24 platform, you can sign up for one. It's fast, it's easy, but it's a great little preview of what you can do with all of this. After that, you'll see a survey icon. We would really love to get feedback from you on today's webinar, but more importantly, what topics would you like to hear about in future webinars in this series? We build this for you, so give us your feedback, and I promise you, we will put together webinars based on the things that you want to hear about. And then finally, on the far right, there's a help button. If you have any technical issues, press that button and you will get immediate service. All right, good, let's get started. All right, webinar marketing predictions for 2020. We do this every single year. We've been doing it for how many years now? Like 5, 6 years? Oh my gosh, I can't, it's unbelievable to me. We have been doing this webinar series now for, I believe, 8 years. I'm pretty certain that it is the longest running webinar series perhaps in history. We're trying to get into the Guinness Book of World Records, but nobody knows. So anyway, and it's a great way for us to sort of set the table at the beginning of every year and talk about, we always talk about best practices, but what should be really looking forward to? What is future facing? What are the things that we need to be thinking about? So what I want to do for today's presentation is I'm going to share with you my webinar marketing predictions. I want you to share with me and with the rest of the group your webinar marketing predictions. So what is your top webinar marketing prediction for 2020? It could be something, a tactic, it could be, just an idea, or I don't know, maybe you'll just try to make us all laugh. But whatever it is, go into the Q&A and just type prediction, and whatever you think it is. And then I am going to read as many of them as I have time for at the end of today's presentation. And if we like them, everyone will get a webinar t-shirt of your own. We're working on some new swag for this year's giveaways too. So I don't know if we're going to do t-shirts next month, but anyway. So yes, what is your webinar marketing prediction for 2020? What do you think is going to happen? Give me some crazy predictions. Tell me what the future holds. I don't care what it is. We'll review those in a while. So just a quick reminder, go into the Q&A, type prediction, and get that in. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use the Q&A to ask questions too. Ask your questions as I go through this, but do both. And I've already got somebody behind the scenes, Brendan, who's out there putting them in separate folders for me, so hopefully I'll be able to keep track of it all. Look at all the cool stuff you can do in webinars, right? We're not just going to sit and give a presentation. We're going to do fun stuff like this. And just using the Q&A widget, look what we're doing, right? I should have made this a prediction. All right. So I thought we'd start by pushing out a quick poll and doing a little level setting for all of you. How do you want to improve your webinar programs in 2020? You can choose any of these, any or all. So if there's two things in particular that you really want to do. Is it generating more leads, just getting more registrants? Is it delivering more engaging, interactive experiences? Is it better presentations and content? Or creating webinars for targeted audiences and customers? Maybe you're going to create unique, specific webinars aimed at a target industry or for a specific use case. And then finally, is it converting webinar leads more effectively? I know you're probably going, Mark, I don't know, I want to do all those, but try to pick the ones that you think are your highest priorities, and that'll help us do a little level setting for where we all want to be in 2020. Got that? Okay, look how interactive this webinar is already. I think we're doing a good job with the interactivity. Let's all be more interactive in 2020. All right, so my marketing predictions. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening right now. How many times do you go to marketing conferences and everybody tells you this is a new era of marketing? Oh my God, it happens over and over and over again. And every time I see a slide that looks like this, I'm like, oh, gag me. Seriously, you're going to give me this again? But the funny thing is, we are at a tipping point. Not because of the usual reasons, not because there's new AI, not because there's new emerging technologies. No, we're in a new age of marketing because the things are changing beyond our control. Our audiences are changing. What they want is changing, and how their expectations of us are changing. Audiences are done with traditional marketing. They have had enough. They are turned off. They're tired of our emails, they're tired of our spam, they're tired of our display ads, they're tired of those SDR calls. And we literally have governments legislating now to stop a lot of the current marketing activities that we engage in every day. What people want has changed. And what they're looking for are experiences. They're looking for engaging digital experiences. This is going to be the theme of the year. I'm telling you this. Moving forward, if you're thinking about your marketing in 2020, you need to get out of the mindset of this is how we've always done marketing and throw that all away and say, how do we create experiences that people want? We've got to stop thinking about marketing as something that serves us and start thinking about marketing as something that serves them. And what they want are great experiences. They want experiences that are interactive, that are multimedia, multi-touch experiences. They're looking for something approachable. They're looking for something authentic. They're looking for something that's more human. And that is where we need to be with all of our marketing. I'm going to be talking about this all year long until we all get it. It's more than webinars, it's bigger than webinars, but webinars are a great way to really begin to make that happen. And it's certainly not the webinars that we used to give a couple of years ago. Webinars are a whole new thing. They've really evolved quite a bit. All right, so let's take a look at our first poll result. I asked all of you what your, how do you want to improve your webinars in 2020? And so our number one response is delivering more engaging and interactive experiences. Yay, thank you all. You are awesome webinars. Either you've been with us for the, I think we got a lot of regulars out there. By the way, huge number of people registered for today's webinar. It's very good to see, literally thousands of people. And I'm so happy to see that you're focusing on engagement and interactivity because that's how you build a great experience. 51% of you reasonably are saying we still want to get more leads. Get it? Totally understandable. 36% of you say that you want to create webinars for targeted audiences and customers. And that is, I think, fabulous. A big part of where we're going in the future, see, I'm already getting future facing, is this idea of using webinars for more. And I'm going to be talking about this shortly, but creating webinars for verticals and for unique use cases is, and creating targeted experiences even beyond the webinar, big in 2020. And then we've got converting the leads more effectively. That's about a statistical tie almost, maybe even a little higher. And then finally coming in last is presentations and content. Okay, all right. Make sure your presenters are solid and your content is great, people. And by the way, if you want your presenters to be awesome and you want your content to be great, make sure to register for next month's webinar because we're going to be talking about that. All right. So what I like to do every year before I get into my predictions is I always like to look back at last year's predictions and do an honest rating of how I did. We try to have full disclosure, full visibility into this, and it's also a good way to talk about what's happening and what's happened and maybe what is still to come. So it's you get some extra predictions here. So last year I had 5 predictions, and my first prediction was webinars would become the new news. And this was talking about people moving to news style formats to try to become the trusted advisor and leading voice in a specific space. This has absolutely happened. I give myself a big check mark on that one. I cannot tell you how many webinars have moved to that format. It has been unbelievable. Usually these things, you make a prediction, and then you see a few of them, you're like, okay, not bad. Tons of webinars doing this. It's a great way to, especially for those of you in financial services or in life sciences or whatever, where you're trying to become a trusted advisor. That is a great format to move to. Okay, my second prediction was the hybridization of outbound and inbound, and this idea of building webinar programs that have a natural sort of outbound, inbound component, and that being sort of planned and moving through stages. I give myself about a half on that one. Most companies still think of webinars simply as an outbound lead generating experience, and they're not really thinking about it as a cyclical process. I think we're getting there, but we're not there yet. That's okay. The next one was the emergence of the webinar channel or the webinar content hub, the Netflix style hub, and maybe I cheated on that one because it was already beginning to happen, but absolutely. There are so many great companies out there that have their own unique webinar channels out there. And I'm going to be talking a lot about webinar channels in my predictions today because now I see a new horizon coming in regards to that. Number 4, I said customer case studies are going to turn into customer conversations, that people are going to start moving those written case studies into live or on-demand webinar conversations. And Absolutely. We've seen a lot of great companies doing some very creative things in how they do customer interviews. In some cases, they just got rid of the written case study, and anybody who wants a case study, has to watch the on-demand webinar, which is great because then instead of reading it. You're seeing the customer tell the story. That's been a great, I think, marketing tool and sales tool for a lot of companies out there. And then finally, we had a crazy one. My fifth one was big rock into small pebbles, and this idea that instead of having these big foundational webinars, companies were going to start breaking it down into much smaller increments and creating, a larger theme and then having lots of little mini webinars around it. Didn't really happen yet. There are some companies that have this in mind, but I think implementation is slow. We'll get there. And I've got a few things I'm going to talk about later on that might help us get there as well. So we did okay. Last year. I'll see if I can up my scorecard this year. All right, so should we get into this year? Let's do it. Okay. My webinar marketing predictions for 2020. Look, you already got 5 free predictions from last year and some guidance. We've got some really practical predictions this year, and I'm going to not only give you my prediction, but I'm going to try to give you some tips and best practices for how I think this is going to happen. So this will be a learning session. And my number one marketing prediction for 2020 is this idea of webinars becoming more like TV viewing experiences. I have been actually talking about this a lot over the course of the past few years. I was afraid to make it a formal prediction. I think I actually talked it like 3 or 4 years ago. I think I did predict it, and I was way wrong. Nobody was ready for that yet. But we are now at that place where it's beginning to happen, and I'm starting to see a lot more webinars that the webinar producers and creators are really looking to TV as inspiration for how to create an experience. And they're thinking about programming, and they're thinking about a branded host, and they're thinking about building experiences that are the kinds of experiences that people want. Look, modern audiences expect more. We talked about this in the front. Yeah, they want to learn. Yes, they're looking for lessons and education and inspiration, but they're looking for authenticity. They're looking to participate in a conversation. They're looking to be entertained in some cases. And where else do we go to be entertained than television, right? It's the formats that they love. So we are finally figuring out how to create human experiences by mimicking TV experiences. And this has been happening. So a few years ago, I started talking about this. I started seeing companies like LinkedIn, this is a year or two old, where they had built a webinar series. Now all of a sudden, we've a lot of companies building webinar series. We talked a lot about that last year, building programming and serialized programming with talk show formats or different types of formats. And we thought, okay, this is really going to take off. 2 years ago, it was slow moving. Last year, everything changed. And now we see companies of all kinds, literally all kinds, really replicating what you might see on a TV show and having nice production values in some cases not as nice. But this is a great example of high production value, straight to camera shot. And all it really is this guy talking. But it looks fabulous. It is organized in a way that people are comfortable with and understand, but still has all of the interactive and engaging elements of a webinar. And I like this idea of taking what would be a TV-like production, but surrounding it with the content, surrounding it with the engagement, surrounding it with the interactivity that you'd get in a standard webinar. And the formats and the different program experiences are all over the place. We talked about news style formats being our big prediction from last year. Like I said, it has been happening. And lots of companies have been building these news style formats where you've got a host or a couple of people that are reporting on the news of the day. They're giving you updates, whether it is on an industry or whether it is updates on a specific best practice or whatever it is, but they're really trying to be that voice of expertise, that trusted advisor. Looks great. And in many cases, you can do it you can have a nice studio set, you can rent a studio. There are studios in every major market that will help you do this stuff for super cheap. They are desperate right now. I mean desperate. They're lowering their prices like crazy. Or maybe you just set up with a single camera, and a lot of folks are doing it with a camera that you can get at Best Buy, and it looks fantastic. There are talk show formats, which I personally love. I love the informal formats where you've just got a couple of people having a conversation. I like to think of it as the Oprah style format, and it works really well. And then there are really super informal formats like chat shows and coffee talks and that sort of thing. And a lot of companies are building these experiences without a lot of money or without a lot of budget. So I think I've shared this example before, but this is Charles Schwab. They have a lot of money, right? Charles Schwab has fancy studios. They can afford to rent any studio in the world that they want for any amount of money that they have, which is a lot. But what they chose to do for this Coffee Talk series is basically take a very lo-fi approach to it, and with a single camera you could get at Best Buy, film a couple people having a conversation with a couple of cups of coffee, and it's great. It's very approachable, very human. So I wanted to give an example. This is for those of you that saw webinars that rock, in December last year, our big year-end ending webinar. We had so many great webinars, and our winner of Webinars That Rock, I think, was a great example of how to create a TV-like viewing experience. So I thought I'd share a couple of highlights from their webinar. It's a series. It's called their Deep Dive series. So right there, it's a program. It's a program that their audience can watch every month and check into, and they have different themes that they talk about every month. But they have a couple of presenters, experts that they're talking. They've got a nice, beautiful console, great green screen behind them, and they have great conversation. It feels like something you'd see on TV, but they did a lot of really cool stuff. They had their presenters run in front of a green screen and do funny skits. They, look at that. Look how funny that is. I can't even tell you what that's about. But they also had video clips, little skits, little acting things that they had filmed, and had a ton of fun with it that they ran in the middle of the presentation. And it made it a completely different kind of experience. You wouldn't expect to see stuff like this in a webinar. So some keys to creating TV-like experiences. First of all, turn your webinars from one-offs into branded series. For those of you that watch every month, you know I talk about this a lot, but every company that adopts it thanks me later. They're always like, oh, that is working so well, because you get people who want to watch every month or maybe even subscribe to an entire series, which is great. Having a little video intro clip like you all saw with us today, like we always have, video presenters, TV-like formats, whether it's news formats, talk shows, whatever. Branding your host, creating a recognizable name and person that people come to know, integrating video clips. It all creates a better, more TV-like viewing experience. And yeah, you can do it with a big budget, but it doesn't have to be. You can do it really lo-fi as well. There's a lot of great examples we've seen of people creating TV-like viewing experiences with, even in some cases just presenting in webcams. There's cool things you can do. All right, my number 2 webinar marketing prediction is that on-demand webinars will become as important as live webinars. I'm going to let that sink in for a moment. Is everybody, all right? Are you good with me? I know some people are thinking, what? It's true. We are at a moment where, and I'm not saying the live webinar isn't important, and we are certainly live today, and there is something about the immediacy of live that people want to be there for the live event. My favorite TV shows, like when Game of Thrones is running, I want to watch live. I want to be watching with everybody else. When my favorite team is playing, I'm beginning to watch it on demand now. I want to get rid of those commercials. I don't know. Something's changing, and people want to consume content on their own terms and their own time, and they're not necessarily going to be available at 11 o'clock on Wednesday or whenever it is you run your webinar. They're going to take in content in their own time, in their own way, and maybe it's during their commute, maybe it's during their lunch. A lot of people just don't have that time in the middle of the day to watch your webinar. So we need to adjust to them, and from our last benchmarks report, and from frankly every benchmarks report we've done over the last 8 years or 10 years, we see that number of people that view on demand only is going up, up, and up. 5 or 6 years ago, that number was maybe in the teens. Now it's 36%. So 59% of everybody that watches a webinar watches live. Still a reasonably decent number, but 36%, over a third of everybody that watched a webinar did not watch live. They watched on demand. And there's a lot of different ways in which that may have happened. That's the thing that's changing. When I talked about this idea of, last year of inbound to outbound and this cyclical thing, a lot of really savvy marketers are building webinar programs, not as, okay, we'll run these webinars and hopefully they'll generate these leads. They're thinking, no, we're going to build this webinar. We'll have a live thing here. Then we're going to integrate that on-demand webinar here. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And eventually we'll promote it on demand. And then maybe we'll rerun it live later. They've got a whole program for it. That's where we are going. And there's a lot of reasons for that. For one thing, there are only so many live webinars that you can promote at a time. If there is one thing that I think all demand gen people are struggling with these days, and that is your database can only support so many drops, right? We're spamming our audiences already way too much. And I can tell you at On24, this is a huge problem with. We are running a ton of webinars. We're probably running too many webinars. And our DG team is constantly being told, oh, we got this other one coming. Oh, and this one's going to be happening the day after. And we got this one. And we want you to, can you do 5 email promotions for that one? Can you do 10 for that? And they're like, what? No, we can't. How can we send that many emails to our database? And so as we begin to do more webinars for more reasons, maybe you have 1 or 2 thought leadership webinars. Maybe you've got some case study webinars. Maybe you've got a partner webinar. You're teaming up with another company in your industry and you guys are going to do a webinar together. You might have some use case webinars, some vertical webinars. Maybe you've got a campaign that you're running and you're going to create a webinar for that. You've got maybe a demo webinar that you're promoting. There's so many different types of webinars. You just can't promote them all, right? Otherwise, you're going to be sending an email to your database like every 10 minutes. It's ridiculous. And so how do we deal with that? Well, they can't all be live. That's for one thing. We are going to have to figure out a way to create webinars and begin to spend a lot more time taking the live webinars that we've created and promoting them as on-demand, or maybe even creating on-demand webinars that immediately just go right into a promotional phase. Lots of companies are having a lot of success basically just creating content and then either taking webinars that were once live or building webinars and then don't even have a live phase and then just put them right into your paid advertising bucket. And that could be retargeting, that could be paid, organic, social, whatever it is. We're doing a ton of this. I'm going to open the kimono a lot today and show you what we're doing. And so we have all kinds of webinars that either ran once live. These are examples of webinars from this series that we now go into an on-demand phase where they get promoted separately, but not through our email database. They get promoted through our paid and organic advertising. And it's been a pretty effective thing. We see a lot of companies have more success doing paid on-demand content than they do promoting a live event to their own database. Then there's the emergence of the webinar hub. So we talked about this in last year's predictions, and we've been talking about this a lot lately. A lot of companies are building these Netflix-style webinar content hubs, and now, instead of having our on-demand content buried in a resource center somewhere where no one's ever going to see it, now we've got these dedicated webinar hubs where we can promote and send people to. We can put them in a really great location on our website, and more people are seeing that content. Maybe we're linking to that content hub from a live webinar. We're taking them into the on-demand hub. So that's been a much more effective way, and we see more on-demand views going up because of that. Then really savvy marketers are beginning to understand that we can use the on-demand webinar content in some pretty creative ways. And maybe the best way I've seen recently is taking on-demand webinars and using them for targeted marketing engagement. So you may be creating custom landing pages for maybe for specific industries, for specific use cases, maybe for specific customers. Maybe you're doing some ABM. But this idea of being more targeted with our marketing and creating something that's more customized, and then we can pick the content that is right for that audience, right for that industry, right for that use case, right for maybe that specific customers. And we've got all these great on-demand webinars. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to take that one. So here's a great example of a custom landing page we created for a specific customer, right? We're doing some marketing to WeWork. And so we created here's a video, and here's a couple of on-demand webinars. There's some other content that we think you might like, and it's a great way to do more targeted marketing. They could be previously live recorded webinars or maybe short on-demand features that you've created, whatever it is. But it's a great way to get to have engaging content integrated into these types of offers. If you just have a custom landing page with a bunch of white papers, it's not that great. So it's a lot better than static content. Also, people are creating a lot of straight to on-demand webinars, and this has been something that we've seen happening a little more over the past year. And so I am predicting that more companies this year will begin to think about, okay, we've got a schedule of live webinars we're going to do. We know we're going to do, 30 live webinars over the course of the year, but we're going to record 70 custom on-demand webinars over the course of the year, and we're going to do industry-focused webinars, use case-focused webinars, maybe some product featurettes. We can do some maybe 10-minute little featurette webinars talking about some things within our products, whatever it is. Maybe it's just for customers, or maybe it's little demos. Maybe we're going to do customer interviews, whatever it is. They all don't have to have a live phase. There's so much we can do, and then we can take those webinars and we can put them in different places on the website. We can do so much with that content. Don't think of webinars simply as this schedule of live events that you're going to hold. And this is the year I think that companies are really going to figure that out. And their schedule of webinars is going to go so much deeper than just the simple live webinars that everybody is used to. And then when you have all that content, think about what it changes. Think about your nurtures. For those of you that are demand gen folks, traditional nurtures, it kills me. Why haven't we not elevated our nurtures? Nurtures these days are still, let's just say you've got a 5-drop nurture. I know probably more likely a 7-drop nurture or whatever, but it's white paper, video, research report, ebook, another white paper. Nobody wants to read that stuff anymore. The new nurture is an engagement optimized nurture. And it's got lots of on-demand webinar content integrated into those nurtures because you're giving people an experience. They don't care if it's live, but give them an offer to come right into an experience right now that they can watch, they can engage with, and you're going to get more people react to those nurtures. So build an on-demand webinar strategy. Think beyond. Think beyond. We'll do a whole, episode in this series later in the year on this, but I wanted to make this one of the predictions because I really think this is the year we're going to change. So whether it's paid or organic, webinar content hubs, integrating on-demand webinars onto landing pages, creating straight to on-demand content, this is where we need to be thinking about, and I think that all of us are going to get there. So, are you guys ready to do that? You ready to do that? Should we pause for a moment and see where we are? Let me push out a poll question first. So my next poll is: do you currently use webinar content hubs now, or interactive landing pages like we talked about, to promote your on-demand webinars? So, are you currently using any kind of Netflix-style content hub or an interactive landing page with lots of movable elements to promote your webinars? Yes, no, or no, but we plan to. And let's see where we all are with that. All right, so while you're all voting in that poll, maybe we can pause and take a few questions. How are we doing on time? I think we're doing okay. And let's see, we've got best practice. Wow. Okay, I see there's a lot of predictions coming in because Brendan set up many folders for me. Best predictions, general predictions, and weird predictions. I love you guys so much. Have I told you that? I really do. Okay, but let's take a couple of questions because a lot of questions are coming in. This is one from Kay who says, if you're turning more live webinars into on-demand and more on-demand webinar hubs, how is that different from just videos? Well, a video is just a video. You can only watch a video and you can't do anything with a webinar with a video. With an on-demand webinar, you still have all the interactive elements. People can still vote on a poll. They can still download a piece of content. They can still click on a CTA. They can still, you can still link them to lots of stuff. It's more active. That's the difference. So think of those on-demand webinars as just as interactive and effective with the CTAs as your live ones. Let's see. Ellen asked a very prescient question that gives away one of my predictions. So, Ellen, I'm going to hold that, and you'll get your answer in a moment. Let's see. Jacqueline writes, our webinars are audio only. Our speakers dial in from our own offices. Does this type work with what you're talking about? You can still have a great program with an audio-only webinar. For those of you that watch webinars that rock last year, I highlighted a couple of webinars that were amazingly immersive and super fun and engaging, and were audio only. So yes, you can still do that. Just make sure that the way in which you're carrying that conversation is engaging and you're engaging your listener. You can, yes, absolutely, you can still do that, Jacqueline. Let's see, this is from Crystal. She says, how do you determine when to charge for a webinar or give it away for free? I would say 99.999% of the webinars out there are free if you're out there simply promoting. You're just trying to generate leads, you're trying to get people interested in your products or services. Now, if you're using webinars as a paid model because you want webinars simply to make money, completely different thing. But majority of the time, I always say give it away. I don't believe in charging for the webinar if you're using it as just a way to generate leads and drive business. Let's see. This is a quick question from Ashley. How do short feature webinars that aren't live differ from just video? Wow, a lot of people asking the difference from video content. Again, the difference from video content is a video is just a video. All you can do is watch I get what you're saying, right? So you're all recording product features. So you've got these little videos that highlight a product and they're super cool and they're great. That's awesome. Why not take that video and put it in a larger webinar? So maybe the video is 2 or 3 minutes and maybe you have a 10-minute webinar where you've got somebody saying, hey, we've got some great features. This is what it does. Let me run this video clip. And by the way, you can download pricing right here. You can download some data sheets over here. If you want to link to a free trial, you can do it right here. If you can interact with them if they want to ask questions. You can do so much more. That is the primary difference. So good questions, people. Very, very good questions. Here's somebody saying, what's the difference between a webinar and a podcast? Again, same thing. Podcast, you can only listen to a podcast. You can't do anything. It's passive. Big difference. All right, so let's continue on, and I'm going to go to my next webinar prediction, my number 3 prediction, which is on-demand webinar hubs will go from 1 to many. So I'm taking this a step further. This year, so many of you have done a great job by building these Netflix-style hubs where you take your webinars that were once live or maybe created for on-demand and you're curating them, and that's wonderful. But a lot of companies have basically just done one hub with all the webinars. Maybe you're categorizing them, but I think the future is different. So these curated content experiences are important. The Netflix style of marketing is important. And a lot of companies have been doing a great job, but we need to now, instead of creating channels for every need and for everybody, we need to create a channel that's not for everybody. We need to create channels for specific things. So what a lot of companies, or some companies, are beginning to do, and I hope all of you will start to do now, is curating on-demand content channels for different uses. We do this a lot. So at On24, we don't have one on-demand webinar channel where we put all of our webinars. We've got I don't even know how many, 30 or something. So we've got one channel where you can get our On24 Best Practices series and our Webinar series, our sort of thought leadership webinars. We've got another one where we call the Webinar channel, which is specific things just for our customers and our existing webinar content. We've got another channel where we do certification for existing customers. We've got another one where we do high-level training. We've got so many channels. We've got product channels. We've got external training channels, internal training channels. We've got bottom of the funnel channels, top of the funnel channels. And I think that is the future of where we're going to go. This idea of having a single content hub is going to change. We need to now have a lot more channels with a lot more different content. Then what can you do with that? Well, if you've got a product page, you've got your product hub. Can link to that product page. If you've got a positioning and messaging page, then maybe you take your high-level thought leadership content and go to that page. You can everywhere people go on your website, everywhere people interact with your marketing, the right channel is there waiting for them with just the right content. They don't have to wade through all of it. That is what I hope and think is going to happen in the coming year. All right, so let's get to the poll result. I asked all of you, how many of you were currently using content hubs or targeted landing pages to promote your on-demand webinars? 26% of you say you're doing it, but closer to 50% are not. But a quarter of you are not, but planning on it. That's great. Can't say enough about this. I really think that these hubs and boy, these targeted pages are going to become a big part. These are also experiences. I talk about webinars being engaging digital experiences, but these hubs and these targeted pages are just as much an engaging digital experience as this is. They're just different kinds of experiences. And this is how our marketing needs to evolve. And you need to be doing all of these things. You need to be doing all of these things. And as you're thinking about your marketing this year, think about how you can create these experiences. It's not just having somebody delivering a great presentation. It's basically also creating places where people go to basically pick and choose content that's been curated just for them. And maybe it's they find it on your on your website, or maybe you send it to their doorstep with a landing page just for them. So hopefully everybody is going to be thinking about doing this in 2020. See, I told you, we've been talking about some deep marketing stuff, actionable stuff. Here at On24, we don't give that BS marketing where it's like, prediction for 2020, know your customer. Oh, I attend so many webinars from marketing people, and I want to learn, and they give me these high-level abstractions. I'm like, teach me something. Okay, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. All right, my number 4 prediction. And this is the one that all of you have been asking. I see you in the Q&A. A couple of you said, what about gating? All right. You guys are so sharp, so smart. You're literally anticipating. This is the first year this has happened. You're anticipating my predictions. My number 4 prediction is that the marketers will finally stop losing their minds, and they will stop the gating madness. We have got to stop the gating madness. This is the most absurd and insane practice I've ever seen in marketing. It made sense before, but now we've got sophisticated tools. We don't need it. Let's talk about the gated form. You know what I'm talking about. So every time you're promoting your webinar, somebody clicks register now, boop, up pops the reg page with the big gated form. Please fill out these 20 fields. Or if you're really savvy, maybe you've got it down to 5 or whatever it is. And here's the thing. 50 to 75%, depending on which study you read. I actually was going to pull a study for you guys. I found a list of like 45 studies on this topic alone. And it basically ranges from 50 to 75%, leaning more heavy on the 75% of people that actually click register now don't register now. Why? You know the answer. It's form fear. They're tired of it's A, they know if they fill out your form, they're going to get a bunch of spam. And B, they just don't want to take the time to fill it out. They don't want to be bothered. Here, though, is the real thing about that. Now, if it's a new customer and it's somebody you don't know, we've got to get them to fill out a little bit of information. So there's nothing wrong with the form in that way. But we gate everybody, right? A majority of you, no matter who wants to attend your webinar, they get a gate. Why are you gating them if they're already in your database? You already know who they are. You already have the demographic information. If someone's already in your database, how many times do you need to get them to fill out a form? It literally serves no purpose. Some people have said, well, it shows intent. Bull stuff. That doesn't, the fact that they clicked a register now shows the same amount of intent. I'm getting worked up. We don't need them to fill out the form. We've got to get rid of anybody who's in the database should never see a form again. So my prediction, my pleading with you is throw open the gates. Throw open the gates. Here's the model that we need to look at. This is what we are doing today for most of our webinars, I think most. So if you register for this series, and if I know who you are, you will get, so if I know who you are, you're just going to get a button. You press that button, you are registered because I know who you are. I promoted this from my database, so I've got your information and details, and if I don't have all of it, I'll get it through contact discovery or some other way. If it's really bad and all I have is your email address, maybe I'll send you to a forum. But otherwise, if I know you are, I don't need to send you to a forum ever again. If perhaps you come to that registration page through some social advertising or something else and I don't know who you are, yes, that's when the gated form is appropriate. And yes, we'll try to get to as few fields as possible. We go back and forth on the field argument. But that's it. Otherwise, you don't need to do that. All of you that are watching me today, I'm going to be sending you lots of promotions. We're going to be doing this every month. And I want you to join me. And I don't need you to fill out a form. I want you to, let's be here as a family together. So, this is the new way. This is the new way. And to be perfectly honest, this isn't even the new way. This is the way we need to be doing it now. Where we're really going to be moving is to subscription models. And we're going to be rolling that out for this series soon enough. You'll all find out about that, where we make it even easy and you just subscribe and you don't even have to register for anything again. I'll just send you a reminder until you don't want to see them anymore and you can opt out. But you get what I'm saying? Do you get it right? I mean, it's not that hard. It's easy to set this up in marketing automation. Okay, so that's the future. No form fill, one click. You got it? All right. What is the real webinar goal? It's not getting somebody to fill out a form. It's getting somebody in the experience, asking questions, filling out polls, tweeting, downloading content, filling out a survey, getting them to take actions, because that's how you're going to learn something about them, not from the form fill. Them engaging with you and taking that engagement data and learning from it, that's how you understand more about your prospect. All right. Sorry, I get worked up about this one. All right, my final webinar marketing prediction, and then we'll get to your predictions for 2020, is that marketers will use engagement data to redefine webinar MQLs. One thing from talking to folks a lot over the past year, I've been traveling this country, this globe, and meeting with a lot of you, and it's pretty much unbelievable, but it seems like a lot of you just MQL everybody that attends a webinar, and I think that's going to change, and I think we need it to change. As we do a better job with our webinars, more people are going to come. More than 2,000 people, we have in this webinar today, are registered for this webinar. If I send all of those, it were to send that many leads to an SDR team, their heads would explode. They can't deal with that. We need to figure out a way to do it. And this is the typical method of lead distribution, the Gatorade bath. Here you go. Everybody came to the webinar. Here they are. And that's a terrible way to do, to help your sales team. We are generating signals in the live webinar. The experience is the magic. And so you're getting all of this detailed information that on each prospect or each person that attends your webinar, right? When they go into the experience, they are engaged and interactive. So, they're responding to polls, they're downloading content, they're clicking on surveys, and you can take an engagement score. In our platform, we have an engagement score for every webinar. There's a lot of different ways you can do it depending on the platform that you use. But you're getting all this detail about what people do. That is the most important information you're going to get. What are the questions they asked? How many questions did they ask? What are the content that they're downloading? This is how you figure out you have a real MQL scoring model where you're comparing somebody who's got the right demographic score with the right engagement score. So it's engagement plus ICP, or ideal customer profile. And that is how you really get a model that works. All right, now I'm really going to show you what we do. This is totally being open. We don't MQL everybody that attends a webinar. So we have a point system. You have to have 50 points to be an MQL. And if you attend a webinar, you get a certain number of points based on your engagement. If you're highly engaged, you'll get 20 points. If you're not highly engaged, you only get 10 points. But for each level of engagement, we give you a couple of other points. However, if you click on a free trial or a demo or a contact form or something like that, boom, we automatically MQL you, because that is the strongest signal that you can possibly get. We need to get better at building these experiences. You guys all said you want to have more interactive and engaging experiences in 2020, right? Well, why are you doing it? Just to make them happy? No, you're doing it because by making them happy and getting them to engage, they're going to give you data. They're going to tell you what they're interested in. And you're going to turn that into the ability to say, you know what? We had 500 people attend our webinar, 250 of these people, tier 1 leads, great engagement, right demographic. We're going to send those to the right people. Tier 2 leads, we can do a better job of figuring out where the MQLs are and maybe who needs to go back into nurture. Then we create rule sets for each of those leads. So maybe tier 1 leads go right to your account managers. Tier 2 leads go to SDRs. Maybe everybody else does an MQL. Maybe they go back into a nurture. I hope that we can all remember it's not about just giving a great webinar. It's about giving a great webinar where people engage, and then you get all that information that helps you figure out where your real MQLs are. Marketing qualified lead. I know somebody's going, Mark, MQL, what is it? Marketing qualified lead. It means a lead that marketing determines is ready for sales. And then sales eventually turns it into an SAL or sales accepted lead. You may have your own terminology. This is where we need to get to. This is where we're going to get to. So this idea of building an engaging experience, turn the engagement into the data we need to do a much better job of lead scoring. All right? Talk about a lofty goal. There is no loftier goal for your webinar programs than this. If you can do this, your salespeople will love you. I promise you. This is how you make friends with your sales teams, because they're you know the refrain, these leads suck. That's because you give them all the leads. Find the better ones for them. All right, so going through all the webinar marketing predictions, we covered a lot of ground today. Number one, I think webinars are going to become more like TV viewing experiences. Do what you can, create some cool programming, build series, whatever it is. On-demand webinars, number two, will become more important, as important as live. That's a no-brainer. I definitely think that's going to happen. Don't prove me wrong, people, on that one. On-demand, number three, on-demand webinar hubs will go from one to many. Don't just do one Netflix-style hub. You're creating a lot of content. Creates different hubs for different use cases. Number four, marketers will finally stop the webinar gating madness. I'm not going to say anything else about that. I'll get too worked up. Okay, and then finally, marketers will use engagement data to redefine what a webinar MQL is. Can't say enough about that one. All right, did you take notes? You ready to go? You feeling it? Yeah? Okay. What are your webinar marketing predictions for 2020? It is time. I'm so excited. Now, here's the thing. You guys have submitted a lot of predictions, and I could judge your predictions myself, but I thought we needed an expert judge. I don't want to just take that responsibility on myself. So I have with me a marketing expert to help judge your predictions. There we go. The Magic 8 Ball. So we'll just see how well you do. All right, we got about 8 minutes or so. We can probably get through a bunch of these. Let's see. We'll start with these. Ian says, my prediction is that I will learn webinaring and become a true webinar. Well, congratulations to you. Should we see if you're going to actually succeed with that? The Magic 8 Ball is very hard to read. Yes, the Magic 8 Ball says yes. Congratulations, Ian. You're officially a webinar now because the Magic 8 Ball believes that. Crystal says more small agencies and individuals doing webinars versus larger companies and marketers. Well, I don't have to read that's already happening. So you get a definitive yes. That's a good one. Let's see. Sean says webinars are going to get shorter and more like podcasts, casual conversations, and interviews. The Magic 8 Ball says, it is certain. And I believe that absolutely that is certain. Oh, you're definitely getting a t-shirt, Sean. That was a good one. Okay. David says, let's see. As more attention is being brought towards video, webinars will become a trending tool in 2020 for companies to interact live with their customers and prospects. Yeah. Do we even need the 8 Ball for that? Yes, absolutely. Of course, David. That is a guaranteed. Let's see. We got another one. Stephanie says shorter, more engaging webinars. I think that seems to be a theme you all are agreeing on. Sarah says more people will start hosting panels and interview style shows. Please be a yes. Let's see. Ask again later. Ask again later. I guess we'll find out, Sarah. I think you're right. Okay, this is fun. Let's see. Let's get to what Brendan considered. So I have a folder that says weird predictions. Shall we do a few of those? Let's see. Mariana says, 5 senses experience webinar, 3D experience in terms of sight, taste, hear, touch and smell. What? We definitely have to consult the Magic 8 Ball. The Magic 8 Ball says, not likely. It worked, people. The Magic 8 Ball works. It really did say that. All right, Maria, we'll get there. Maybe not next year, though. Let's see. Elizabeth says a majority of presenters on webinars will be on video during their presentations. That's not so crazy. I'm hoping that is happening. 8 Ball says, don't count on it. Why is everybody so afraid of being on camera? It's not that bad. You don't have to be scared. We're all friends. And by the way, we're going to be talking all about this next month. So register for next month's webinar, and we'll get into that a little bit. Let's see. Christopher says, VR experiences predominantly around product demos. Wow. You think we're going to have virtual reality in our webinars? Come on, Magic 8 Ball. The Magic 8 Ball says, as I see it, yes. Oof, I don't know. Maybe sometimes the Magic 8 Ball had a long night last night, so you never know what's going on with the Magic 8 Ball. Let's see. Okay. Here's Robert says, webinars will be shorter and shorter with less death by PowerPoint. Please, yes. I think a lot of people are going for the shorter concept. Are you saying this is too long? Does this seem too long? I don't know. Everybody has fun. Debbie says user-driven presentations, polling during a webinar to drive. Yeah, I think the more the user is involved or the viewer is involved in the webinar experience, that's definitely going to happen. It is decidedly so. Good call, Debbie. Let's see. Erica says, someone out there will automatically get the webinar tattoo inked. Okay, for those of you who don't know what's happening, last month we gave away webinar tattoos. They're temporary tattoos. And Erica's predicting somebody's going to get that thing inked. If there's anybody who does that, it probably should be me. I don't know. The Magic 8 Ball says, ask me again later. All right. Okay, those are some good ones. Let's see here. Let me see, also go back to a few of the questions too, because I don't want to not take all of your questions. Good predictions, people. That was really nice. I'll get to a couple more if we can. So Jeff says, how are on-demand webinars done in an interactive way? Well, it's everything you're seeing today, right? We pushed out some polls. You guys are taking questions. We're doing a little gamification. You can have a chat box going and get people actively engaged in social. That's how you get them engaged. Have them downloading content, getting them to do stuff. Your goal should always be to get your audience to do stuff. Ellen asks, do you think that sharing so many resources during a live webinar could distract the audience? My favorite question. Okay, this might be a good way to wrap up on. All the interactive elements, all the things that I'm telling you to do in your webinars. Get people responding to polls, get them downloading content, link them to other things, link them to webinar pages, link them to big tours that you have, whatever webinar things it is. Will they be distracted? Maybe. They're going to be distracted anyway. That's today's reality. And what if they find something that they like better and link to it? Good. Let them be distracted by your own content instead of letting them be distracted by, their Facebook feed. Let them be distracted by your content, and if they can get to an experience that they want more than the webinar they're in, great. Let them get to the content that they want. Folks, building really great experiences that people like and that they're engaged in, they can interact with, is the key to great webinar marketing in 2020. And so give the people what they want, give them engaging digital experiences, and we will have a really great 2020. All right, so that's all we've got. Good start today, folks. Great questions, great predictions. We'll send out a bunch of t-shirts to everybody who had some predictions that we think are going to come true. Maybe we'll get everybody a t-shirt. What do you think? And also just a great start to this webinar series. We've got a great lineup of webinars this year. We're going to take some old standards and refresh them. We're going to do some new ones. I hope that you'll join us every month. We also look for an email tomorrow morning. We're going to be announcing the dates for Webinar World 2020. We're going to do it again here in San Francisco. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. I hope all of you webinars will show up. As those of you who are there know, it's a great time. So I'll end as I always do. Let's see what the 8 ball says. Yeah, time to go. I want to thank you for spending some time with us today. Let's have an awesome 2020. We'll see you next time.